Hey, happy Friday, everyone. I'm so happy it's Friday. How about you, Bride, our guest today?
What's up, guys? I'm very happy it's Friday as well.
Yeah,
How are you
Friday
doing?
is great. Doing great, doing really great. I love Fridays because it gives me a chance to catch up with all you, and it gives me a chance to bring Brian on. A lot of people ask, where has he been? So,
It's been a while.
what's up with you, my friend? You been busy?
I'm good. Yeah, I've been busy. I've been streaming with you in a minute. How long has it been? It's been a while.
It's been a while, but yeah, you've been busy, so I get it. Gotta get your job done, gotta get work out there.
Yeah,
And
right.
have you seen some of the prices on these things today?
Yeah. Things have been pretty crazy. I mean, it's a very interesting time for everybody who's buying right now.
It is, definitely. And well, if you haven't caught Brian's recent video, he put up a video, and this is kind of like a follow-up to it helps people buy a TV based on what we think most of you will benefit from. And of course, sometimes we focus so much on the details where you only spend less than 5% enjoying those minute feature details that you lose the rest of the image quality as a result. So I put up kind of like a similar video, right? Gaming dads, all the different types of use cases out there, just having
Yeah, it was
fun.
good.
Uh, oh, hey, he finally got a notification, classy.
Nice.
It's like, I never know when you guys are live streaming. So I wanted to make sure that we gave you guys some context because oftentimes, and I'm just as much I am as responsible for this as many reviewers in that we dedicate an entire video on a feature. But the reality is, it's for those who are interested in that feature. But sometimes it comes off that this feature makes this TV awesome. And unless you get this TV with this feature, the TV is no good.
Yeah.
And that we don't make it clear that for most people this doesn't matter. So like VRR, suddenly if your TV has crappy VRR, your TV is crappy. Because I'm getting a lot of people who, I have PS5, I heard this VR doesn't work well, I'm going to wait for the LG prices to come down.
Of
I'm
course.
like, but you may not end up ever using VRR. So
Yeah.
like do you have a PC? Are you playing a PS5? PS5 doesn't have VRR. It may never have VRR. We don't know where that's going. And if it does it even matter if the PS5 games are locked at 4K 60 anyway, right? There's so many things out there happening. So we're gonna definitely jump in there. I definitely want to let
Absolutely.
you some time to rant because you've been building this up for weeks. I know you call me, you're like, what? And if many of you don't know, quick price updates. These are minor changes in the last week, but if you are buying a TV, I like to throw this chart up for everyone, right? And specifically at the 55-inch size, some new adjustments here and there, but mostly it's amazing to me that the three flagship TVs that you can get at 55-inch are all within $100 of each other. A80J, LG C1, Samsung Q90A, all great TVs, depending on your use case. If you want OLED, great. You got two OLEDs to choose from. You have the Samsung if you want great anti-glare, super bright, and TCL 6 series for half the price, not bad at all, right? 65-inch. The A80J I know is back up there. So this is more of a target price now. I suspect it will come back to 1800. LG C1, I believe, is at 1800, and the Samsung Q98 is now at 1700. They're being aggressive, by the way. They're attacking the X95J straight on, which is at 1800. I
Yeah.
didn't highlight the X95J because I'm thinking, it's so hard for me to say buy it when it's more expensive than Q98. But then if you're concerned about possible quality control, DSE, uniformity, you got this in the Sony. Less likely to happen. And then you go down the budget. These are pretty much the same prices. Nothing's changed. And at the 75-inch, we see that the A80J, the LG C1, and the Q98 has really dropped in price, 2,400. That is a significant discount compared to the smaller sizes when you make it relative to OLED to compare. But for an OLED to be under 3,000, I think it's pretty strong. KG has speculated that possibly it may go even lower because the military discounts are saying it's under 2,700. So that's something to look forward to if it stays in stock, everybody, right?
Yeah.
And then 1,300 for the TCL 6 series. 75-inch. This is the Roku TV from last year. It is a solid TV for 1,300. I cannot think of a reason not to get it if this is your budget. Everything else, like right here, you have the Hisense U7G, it's an IPS panel. I made sure to put that there for those wondering. 1200, it's a great buy, but it's IPS. I haven't reviewed it. I cannot say if it's terrible, but generally I do not like IPS because of the innate lifted blacks or the blooming issue, especially
Yeah.
off angle. And then if you're in the 83-inch size, the selection is slim. The QN90A at one time was 2600 within the last week or two on Best Buy. You have to catch it when it hits that price. It will only hit it for a few hours. Only certain number of inventory has it. So keep on clicking, refresh every day, 4 times a day. It'll happen again between now and Black Friday. Let me know if you catch this price. And of course, if you don't get it, you have the Sony X95G at 3500. The Q90 is out of stock. So, but normally when it is in stock, it was 3300. But below that, it's really hard for me to recommend these TVs as an image quality, great image quality TV, only because it's 85 inches. It's not as expensive. You can afford it. So, it is what it is, right? 85 inches are not expensive. So, something to think about. And let us go into a few questions real quick here. Jump in. Among these TVs, what would you have bought, Brian, if you were open to any of these models and sizes? What would your choice be?
Well, I mean, other than the ones I have, I do love the X95 a lot. The Q90A is another one that's very attractive. But right now I'm looking at this probably. I mean, money's no object though. I mean, if the prices fall on the Z9J, I'd be attracted to that. But we'll cover that one when it comes to unused features like
Yep.
8K. And paying for a lot of those features. But it's been a really good lineup this year for TVs, actually. And if you look at the like the X95,
Okay.
unfortunately, we talked about this.
So did Ring Bro just say the 646 is 1300? So I know the 635 is 1300. If the 646 is 1300, that's a great deal too. Wow.
Wow.
So I had it up here at 2300 when it was on Best Buy just yesterday. So, but
Wow.
go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, but in
Oh
case
no,
someone's
I
thinking
thought
of
my mic
buying, yeah,
broke. I'm like, oh, here we go.
here we
Um,
go.
but we talked about that with the X95. The biggest issue was coming out so late in the game. They really can't drop it as low as they can, and Samsung always being first to market has a full year head start to
Mhm.
where it's okay to drop their price really low.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you talked about it, the X95J was really so late.
So
I'm
late.
like, come on, Sony, just be realistic. There is no one someone's going to choose you over the Samsung when they know the
No.
Samsung is a flagship level. Hey, Rob, thanks for the super chat. Z9J versus 90J. Ooh, this is something that I know Brian would love to address because he's seen them both. I have not seen the Z9J. I have seen the A90J. I have that in a room with uncontrolled floor to ceiling side windows, 50-50 day and night viewing. Which to pick? Did either of you feel the magic of the Z9J that Caleb did? So here's my opinion. Ooh, the uncontrolled floor to ceiling windows is an issue for the A90J. It does not have the anti glare that the other TVs do. That's just what it is. So if you're thinking, okay, I can get either the 85-inch Z9J or the 83-inch A90J, the Z9J's anti glare may be the deal, during the day. Now, at night, you're going to have to deal with slightly lifted blacks, obviously a little bit of blooming. It's not an OLED, but during the day, you're going to enjoy the hell out of this TV. Whereas the A90J might have to fight with that glare during the day. I would go with the Z9J because of the 50% day viewing, but then now I cannot comment on the magic. I'm going to let you comment on the magic, Brian. Did you feel the magic?
Well, I would definitely say what you mentioned is very valid. It's also a couple inches larger, which helps in this case with the 85-inch. To me, the 8K, you have to buy, Rob, the 8K as a 4K panel because it doesn't really have the ability to show 8K at this time. There's no real 8K. Even from what I understand, even 8K YouTube videos don't play on it. So, as the best LED in Sony's lineup, unlike the Samsung QN90A and the Q900A, I do feel in your use case a larger Z9J being future proof, and also as you mentioned, FOMO. What's funny about OLEDs in a dark room is their strongest feature, be it the black level, is when they become mirrors. So I probably in your use case I'd go with the Z9J. It's also a Master Series as well, and it's extremely
Yeah.
bright.
Yep. And that means they both will match up with the HTA9 if you don't already have a good home theater system and you're thinking soundbar. I would consider that HTA9 to match with those two first, because
I love
now,
that system.
oh, that center channel is rock solid with those two
Yeah.
TVs for sure. Hey, thanks for the super chat, Kush Burger. I want a 65-inch A90J. When will we see any price drops like the military exchange? Oh, Master Series OLEDs rarely get price drops in the first year. I
Yep.
have yet to see it ever drop more than $100 or
No.
some. Hey, you get to watch Bravia Core, right? Whatever. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be significant. Nothing like we're seeing from the A80J. I mean, the A80J is like what 1800 already for the 65 and 1300 for the 55, and under 3000 at a few points this year for the 77-inch in the A80J. Honestly, I think the image quality difference doesn't justify the premium for most people. So if you just need an OLED, 77-inch A80J is great because it's less than the 65-inch A90J.
Yeah, that's
And that's
insane.
what I'm saying is between the 65 A90 and the 77, I'd go with the 77 because of the size. So, but again, A90J, if you have your heart set on it, you're going to be waiting at least 18 months because just look at the A9G now. Remember, the A9G is 2 years old now,
Yeah.
and or maybe more, and it's selling for more than the A80J, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous.
They almost put that Master Series emblem on it to say, don't even ask about the price. That's their, hey, it's going to be expensive. The
Yes.
A9G, even as it's already out. They're looking at it as a collector's edition.
Yeah.
That's how they,
That's
that's how they
that's what I'm
position them.
thinking. Yeah.
So and
Oh
they
well,
feel like,
like
hey, we're offering you the A80.
hmm
Don't worry about the A90 if you can't swing it.
well,
So
what was it?
I would go with the larger 77-inch.
The Z9D. People call it a collector's TV now, right?
Yeah, it's like the Pioneer Elite. Those are
hmm
worth money now. So I think the
I
Master Series is
this
that way.
is I could not set us up any better than this comment right here. Bat Tech. I can't recommend Sony at all if you are a gamer. So there is so much to unpack. Thank you, Bat. Before I unleash Brian on this comment, I want you guys to watch this video real quick that I set up for us. Bat, you are so awesome. See, this is why I have you guys on. I cannot even set up your comments. So thank you, Bat, for that. This is Demon Souls on PS5, set to performance mode in the game. These are two TVs. They are the Samsung QN90A and the Sony X95J, set to what I believe is the best image quality that I can get out of it. Now, as you watch this, the two TVs, I'm not going to tell you what it is until I start playing with the settings. Then you'll figure it out. But ultimately, what you'll see is, and forgive the blown out highlights because my camera could not capture the huge dynamic range of this game, by the way. I'm gonna have to go and play with this. So in my final review comparing the two in terms of image quality gaming, I will be able to capture all that dynamic range because I'll have my ISO set properly, but this will give you a taste. So guess which TV is which. One is the Samsung QN90A and the other is the Sony X95J. And yes, I've doubled up the speed so we don't sit forever through this 2-minute footage. So let's go. And tell me which one you like, right? And I know compression, YouTube, whatever. So this is the intro. Color looks great on both. One of them was set to cool, so it's not the fault of the TV. I just happened to have it on cool. I forgot to put it in a warmer color. The other one was defaulted on a warmer color. That's why. So yeah, the left one is a touch cooler. It's not the fault of the TV. There is a warmer setting that I did not set it on. And no, the TVs were not using a splitter. Each TV got its own HDR calibration. I
Hmm.
just in post put it side by side so you guys could see it, and I matched the exposure so that they both have similar. The camera exposure on both is very similar. That's why it appears to be blown out. So the one on the left, obviously, you see is the Samsung. It
Hmm.
is very bright. It's not like it clips the colors. It's just very bright. This is where the Samsung brightness comes in. I'm playing with the contrast. You guys can see the different settings, right? On the Sony, it is on brightness preferred. So I
Yep.
can get the max brightness. You see the contrast, right? You could add this and that. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm looking at this. I'm like, hey, I would be happy with either TV, by the way. It is 4K 60, no VRR. HDR is on. Both TVs have more than enough settings for me to play with it to get to a setting that I would like. for gaming for this game on the PS5, I would be thrilled. I, I would not say, hey, I'm going to get one over the other. Again, on the right is a Sony, on the left is a Samsung. I don't know. I'm not unhappy with either one. Now let's unleash Brian. Brian, Bad Tech says, can't recommend a Sony if you're a gamer. So we need to define how much of a gamer is a gamer, because I put out the dad gamer, right? Are you a dad gamer, or are you my son, the 18-year-old, 17-year-old gamer who takes everything very seriously? Go forth.
Well, I mean, that's the video that we did the other day was really checking the boxes on the Xbox, um, VRR, G-Sync, FreeSync. Even most of the things that I say, V-Sync, Free, those aren't for the Xbox. They're basically things that you're checking. Yes, if you want the best gaming TV on the market, there is LG is the best. It's has the most features, but I think this misconception that you can't game on them and all of a sudden, without VRR enabled, you're not having a beautiful image or a very quick image or quick latency is just, I mean, unless, again, I go back to what I've always said, unless you game on them, which I do, they're perfectly fine. They're actually amazing. I don't really notice a big difference in smoothness from the A80J and the C1. For many of you that have the C1 right away, you're
Now,
like, whoa, whoa,
is
whoa,
that
whoa.
on 4K 60? What was the setting where you did
4K
notice the
60, I mean,
difference?
it's still
Okay.
4K 60, but even at 120, I mean, I didn't say, like, oh my God, I can't play that, but I didn't have a lot of the bad experiences that people had with the X90 either. But again, I'm playing it as a consumer. I'm not trying to check any frame timing or anything like that, but I find it to be very smooth and beautiful. So I understand why he's saying that, but I don't know if he knows why he's saying that in the sense of what specific use case is he describing? Is he
Eh,
saying that,
Right.
that Mountain 2 gamer, are you playing like in a league? But I play competitive multiplayer every day, and I do absolutely fine on Sony.
And so if the sole reason to say it's a gaming TV if VRR works well, then really the only recommendation is the LG OLED. Because even on the Samsung with VRR enabled, the image quality doesn't come close to the LG OLED. But if you're saying working VRR, then you would include the Samsung because it works very well. But then if you also want image quality, it's almost as if you cornered yourself into only the LG selection, giving
Yeah.
up so much of the same image gaming quality on the Sony if you just ignore VR altogether and you're okay with 4K 60. So this gets,
So it's
yeah,
funny though, quickly before we move on,
uh-huh,
is if you've ever watched any of the Twitch, the large channels, Dr. Disrespect, those guys, when you watch them play, you see how clean the image is and, whether they're capture card. But what you'll notice too is the picture quality is so IPS, it's so
hmm
faded and washed out. Most professional gamers, people that really game hard, the image quality is the last thing they care about. What we're speaking about here is like right now, I'm playing Vanguard, and I think the image quality is awful. It
yeah.
has a very hazy look, even with the black level turned down. So we're talking about image quality and performance. If you're talking strictly performance, then you need to be on a monitor or CRT or something like that. But I mean, we're talking about image quality with that as well.
So a lot of people are asking, where's this 85-inch Q&A for 2600? I have not found any evidence. So several people on AVS forum were able to capture that $2,600 deal on Best Buy. So that was them. They're sharing their happiness. They're high-fiving each other. Maybe they're liars, right? But there is definitely people out there saying that they were able to get that at 2600 at Best Buy. And a lot of people had it in their cart and did not close the deal quick enough, and it was no longer available. By the time they clicked purchase, I think it went up to 3,300. Like, oh, where did my
Yeah, it was a
2,600 go,
mistake.
right?
Yeah.
So it's there, guys. It happens, and I'll even let's see. I know Brad asked me before, like, hey, this is it. It's what it is. Sometimes you get the deal, sometimes you don't. You really have to hunt it. Let's
Yeah.
get some
And
some
sometimes
great
it's a
questions
mistake
here.
because they can't lower the price. As you've heard Robert say, they all have to follow a specific roadmap.
Yeah,
That's
it could have
that
been
out.
Best Buy's mistake is your
They
game.
make they do
They
make
make
mistakes.
mistakes.
They do
hmm
occasionally do that, and they do have to
Yeah.
honor them if you're in and out of the cart. So
And confirmed, the 646 is now the same price 636, which makes it a consideration, I would go with the, well, I know Classy may disagree because he feels that the color accuracy is a bit off on 46, so he might go with the 36. Both are phenomenal TVs. You either like
Hmm.
Roku or you like Google TV as well. So something to consider, but now both of them are 1300 at 75 inches. It's a no-brainer. You have to go over 2000 to get that same level of
Yeah.
quality. I think the X90J is pretty expensive at the 75 inch as well. So yeah. So let's see. Here's a super chat for us. Thank you, Michael, for the super chat. I want a 75-inch QN98. Samsung Direct includes a 3-year Samsung Care, and Costco has a 2-year plus 3 from Allstate. Any suggestions which is better?
As a
I cannot tell you. I'm sorry. Do you have any experience with these extended warranty when you actually have to use it?
No, I know the Costco one's a lot like refurbished phones. You pay $100 and they maybe fix it. It's usually more of damage if you drop it or crack the screen.
Mm-hmm.
They cover that stuff pretty quickly, but as far as mechanical issues, I'm not sure they cover them as well. I know Costco itself is great about just saying bring it back in because you're a member. So
Mm-hmm.
to be safe, I'd go with Costco because the 2 year they'll usually cover you if you're a good client to them.
And also something to keep in mind, it's always you get what you pay for as well. Keep that in mind. So if Costco throws it in as part of the price, right? It probably will not cover as many things or maybe provide you the same level of service as a competing extended warranty that may be several hundred. It doesn't mean that it's better, by the way, but more often than not, for example, Geek Squad is probably the gold standard in my opinion, but it's very expensive relative to everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's so hard because then I know that there are some people who are incredibly aggressive. They threaten lawsuits, they file a small claim, and then suddenly, magically, everything happens in their favor. But they were so vocal about what they were going to do that the insurance
Yeah.
company said, okay, you know what, it's not worth it. Whereas they beat up on the little old lady that just gives up. So either one, if you go for the lesser one, expect to work a little bit harder to get what you want. And if you
Yep.
go with a white glove one, the assumption is you don't have to work as hard to get what you need, right?
Yep.
So that's something to think about. That's been my experience with these kind of insurance coverages. Hey, Dan, thanks for the question. What about ultra short throws? Are these going to come down in price? There are two types of ultra short throws. You have the laser and non-laser. But the laser, you have two types, the triple laser and the dual laser. Always go for the triple laser. Those are still between 4,000 and 5,500. Get the one with the screen. Do not go screen shopping yourself unless you know exactly what screen you're going to get. Now
Right.
you'll be out swapping screens because it doesn't exactly fit your use case. Currently, my recommendation for ultra short throw, where it includes the screen, is the Hisense L9G. It
Yep.
comes with a hard screen. You could throw a tennis ball at it, it'll bounce right back. Perfect for large, bright rooms. In a darker room where you don't need that level of brightness and durability, but want more cinematic accuracy, I guess is how you describe it. Then they have the regular cinema screen that's not as durable, and it goes up to 120 inches for 6,000. That's MSRP. Wait out Black Friday, the holidays, it will drop. My expectation, it should drop below 5,000. So get one with a screen designated for it. That means it's been tested to look good in that screen. Otherwise, oh, I hate screen shopping, man. It's the
Oh,
worst.
it's nice. But I mean, they're really they've come a long way, and they are a viable option. It's just the picture quality is just not there yet, and they have the
Yeah.
gaming is. If the gaming ever gets there, they'll be dangerous. But the black level's not there, and they look good in demos. The minute you watch something with too many blacks, you're like, ooh, and it gets into that faded color.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that yeah, especially if you're used to OLED, you cannot go from OLED to any projector, including the laser ultra short throw, and expect, wait, how come my OLED
Yeah.
looks better? Oh, it's going to look way better. But 120 inches in a bright room, you know what? This is a different use case. And we talked about it in our seminar. There are people out there who do need that 120-inch screen. They have a large room, they want to fill it out.
Oh yeah.
It's a fun mixed room. You got a guy playing pool here and a bar there.
Yeah.
You can't have a projector there. A normal projector is going to get washed out, but this one will work. So that's
Yep.
something to think
Absolutely.
about. Yeah. And I got to put this one up. Samsung is the left one. I can see the teal. You are so right. The teal.
Buddy
It's got
love. Come on.
Yeah, and it's funny when I put it in warm one, I go, well, it looks warmer, but now the teal looks even better.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, that is, but it's not unpleasant. That's why I keep on telling people you either like it or you don't. I didn't find it unpleasant. The Sony's probably a little bit more accurate, but when you're playing video games, who cares about the creator's intent? Is my point, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, wait. There's an echo when I talk. I'm gonna have to blame that on Brian. Guys,
yeah,
let me know if there's an echo when I talk. If
yeah.
there
I think
is,
so.
I'm gonna have to tell Brian to take it down a little bit more.
I'll take it down a bit more.
Or I'll have to mute you when I talk. Or mute you when I talk.
All right, is that
But
better?
yeah, let us know if there's still that echo. We've been testing that. See, this is what happens. Brian's got the most expensive TVs you can buy, but then his microphone doesn't work very well.
No, my microphone's fine. It's like my Surface Pro, all this stuff I have. My kids use it for their schoolwork now. So I'm like, why are they screwing with them?
This is a good question. Why is it so cheap on the military exchanges? So let me ask you this. What is the A9G on the military exchanges? Because the A9G never really dropped in price. This
No.
means join the military. Basically, it's a recruiting tool.
But
That'll be
is
my
that just a
response.
discount, or is that what is the
It's
military
their
exchange? That's just their discount, right?
that's their discount. Yeah, if you're
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean they could
military,
be
that's the
showing
price
love
you
to the
get.
military. So I mean
That, that's that's
it's
great.
worth. Hey, you should get it if you were in the
Yeah.
military.
Oh, hey, thanks for another super chat. Kush, I need a 65-inch for a light controlled 17 by 23 room. Can't have external speakers. Is the A90J worth the premium price for audio? No.
No, not in
I
a
can
room
tell, let
that
me
big
tell you that
either.
right now.
That room's
It
too big,
gets
man. For
it gets a little bit louder, but at 65 inches, what you would need is, hey, with the A90J, to get better than the A80J, get an external amplifier, then you're driving it directly with your external amplifier. But obviously, it's now part of your home theater system. So, you have a home theater system, you can't have external speakers, so you're stuck because the A90J gives you an opportunity to drive it independently with your own amplifier, but then you're getting mono, right? I mean, it's just not worth it. Get the
yeah.
A80J if it's just audio you're looking for. You're not going to get the improvement you want. I'm so sorry. This is what I say. If you're in the Mountain Dew League, right, as you say, Brian, if you're in the Mountain
Bro.
Dew League, what are you gaming on a
Well, I would
TV?
love these guys telling me competitive gaming, and I'm like, what does that mean? Does that mean like competitive game? I'm nasty at these games. But if you want to be like in a league, you need to be a CRT. You need a wired controller and call it a day. But I think the casual gamer versus the hardcore gamer is where a lot of people are getting lost here. I'm a hardcore gamer. I love gaming. I don't have time to game as much as I like, but I'm also more into picture quality. Now, Evan, before we get into Evan loves the Z90J. Just look through his comments. And Evan, I give you mad love for loving your A90J. But the thing is, you've gotten this point where you think every other panel can't compete with it, and it's just not accurate. I mean, the A80J is amazing. I know you have the A90J and you love it. I've spent hours upon hours with both of them. And I know you love your panel, and I'm glad you love it, but just try not to knock down other people's panels for me if you get a chance.
Well, here's a balanced and technical explanation, and this is something you've complained about, Brian. Thanks, Ninjishin, for this comment. OLED at 120 hertz is way better for gaming. Yes. Look up Blurbusters and OLED Tech, right? So they have the measurements, and they're showing that the problem, and this is our problem as dad gamers, consoles drop resolution and effects to hit 120. And if you want all the resolution effects, then you end up at 60. What's the point, right?
Well, that's what I brought up in my video is 120 is great. The problem is these consoles are not capable. They're just not. They're not
Mm-hmm.
capable of it. They're not capable of 4K 60 native. They just can't. They're not. I'm sorry to everybody who thinks they can. They can't. I mean, they've done. Again, he's Ninja mentioned. I think Destiny 2, which is an older title for me. Halo looks great at 4K 120. Black Ops is cool at 120, but they're not impressive looking titles. They're old titles in regards to Destiny. But I mean, my point is a lot of these games, the image quality is not good, and they're not powerful enough for 4K 120, and they won't be for a long, long time.
Oh, and quick classy. So a massive update rolled out to California today for the R646. A lot of people said it fixed a lot of their bugs. Let us know if you got the update and if those bugs that you're complaining about is still affecting your TCL 6 series Google TV. And this is what we're talking about too, right? When a game is designed for the PC to perform well, you got to be on a PC. The console, it's a console, people. Stop trying to make the console perform at 4K 120.
Yeah.
People are
Well,
buying RTX 3090s, 3080s, right? To get this done. There's no way.
Well, and to Nadishan's point too, and I've mentioned this in my video, is what a lot of us are seeing is screen uniformity issues on our panels. And a lot of that's due to the resolution is not native. On PC, you put it up there, it's native 4K. Here, you have dynamic resolutions, you have all these different things, checkerboard rendering, you have all these, and they create banding. I mean, OLEDs have the worst banding in a certain situation if you have like that bluish light 5% gray, and it's in every game now. Unfortunately, every game has these weird areas. You see that on checkerboard rendering, you don't see it on PC because it's
Right.
clean, there's no
Yeah.
tricks. And you
Yeah.
line up all of those different resolutions and the way they're making it happen, and it messes
They're
up the
cutting
screen, or
corners.
it
Yeah.
goes in with the flaws of the screen,
They have to cut corners to make it perform adequately on the console.
and it
But
shows
it
up.
but unless you have the console and the PC next to each other, the console gamer's like, well, it doesn't look that great. What are the PC guys talking about? And PC guys
Yeah.
like, dude, they have to cut back on that bandwidth processing in order for it to even play properly. So,
The
a lot
problem
of
is PC
times,
optimization has been absolutely awful.
yeah,
So I mean that those graphics cards can do everything that we need them to do easy, but
yeah.
they're completely crippling them. I
And
mean,
let's
it's a
let's
shame.
give a brand love that I know gets hacked all the time by all of us. Impressions of the Vizio OLED since they've done a firmware update to fix some early issues. And I'm assuming you mean gaming issues because just for watching streaming on a stick, not streaming on SmartCast, streaming on a stick movies, I thought it was fine. It's all the crazy stuff when you plug in a PS5 or a Series X that's an issue. Now, since then, I've already gotten rid of it. So, but the people I gave it to were people I knew were not gamers, right? I sold it to Joe and Tell, and he only watches it, TV streaming, so he doesn't care.
Mhm.
You're asking for trouble when you're pushing a TV that you know was not engineered to be a gaming TV, right? I mean, Sony is one, and this is why a lot of people with the Vizio are disappointed. They're treating specs as if it's perfectly implemented. A spec is a spec, but the second half of that spec is how is it implemented. So this year we're seeing, well, not every HDMI 2.1 port is created equal.
No, and last time I checked, the Vizio was the same price as a C1 at the same size at Best
Yeah.
Buy like a couple weeks ago, which is unreal. I mean, it should be a lot. 55 inches, I think they were the same.
And I have to call out Michael because he has the Vizio OLED TV. I don't think he games, but he loves it. He loves his
Yeah, I
Vizio
mean, I have
OLED.
it. It's fine, but I mean, as long as you're happy, Michael, that's all we care about.
Yep, yep. Let's see. Hey guys, great job. New update to 80J, A90J, Vincent Toe's new video, HD TV test. If you don't know, any thoughts on the update? Supposedly in the update, better picture quality. Okay, so here's one of the issues for me. Unless I know what the update's doing to the picture quality, it's really hard for me to check. So I'll watch Vincent's video to see where the improvement is. That way I can then do a before and after, hopefully, to
Yeah.
see what it did improve because we don't know what we don't know. If I don't know where the improvement is, hell if I know if it helped, right? If it's like, well, red is a lot better when it's this dark and then there's this luminance, you see
Yeah.
more red, right? If I don't have any image that will test,
And
it's
I
like
hate
the
that they're
whole
and
go
I
ahead.
hate that they're actually affecting image quality with updates like this. I mean,
Yeah.
it's you got to be really careful because you can't roll them back. I mean, so updates used to just be a, an operating system thing. I mean, if they're improving them fine, but I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
glad, Michael.
Here we go. Carlos, thank you for the super chat. Hey, been meaning to buy a new TV for the last 3 years. 65-inch looking at the X950H or X95J for the value, which is better? This goes into a comment I was going to address earlier. So ratings, I'm sorry, Alex, ratings put out a comparison, and at the end, their conclusion was get the cheaper TV. The differences are so minimal in their opinion. And I know you
Mhm.
have both and you've seen both. Before we get to your comment, just to let you know, what ratings said is if you really want 4K 120 gaming, HDMI 2.1, EARC together with all the stuff that comes with 2.1, and potentially VRR, not to say that it works at all, then the X95J has all of that. But you take all of that out, what you have left is Google TV versus Android TV. If you don't care about that, what you have left is image quality. I've never seen the X950H myself, so I'm not going to comment. I have the 95J. I compare it to the QN90A. I think it's phenomenal. I don't think you would do wrong either way. But the 95J does have slight more blooming, some lifted blacks here and there, but it's not noticeable. Brian, you've seen both of these. What are your thoughts for Carlos?
Love the X950H, Carlos. The thing I would say is the cognitive processor this year is a huge jump for image quality. That has nothing to do with gaming, just how it's processing in movies, it's upscaling. To me, LG caught up to Sony last year with upscaling, and then I think the cognitive processor took it up a notch. So I think the processor alone, minus all the gaming stuff, I think the processor alone is worth the price. And I never say that because I usually think processing is marketing, but not with the cognitive. It's a big deal.
Yeah. And let's get to that. The number one, I'd say, praise for the X95J uniquely is that XR does better with cable content and low bitrate content and DVDs than any other TV before it. So if you are using, you're playing old DVDs, you're taking over the air, or you're watching cable, go with the X95J because many have said that that is a noticeable improvement for them. But that's a very specific use case that I
Hmm.
don't think ratings really compared, right? They're not doing
No.
those use cases. This is where the actual users would have to decide. And speaking of users, I want to address this comment. Hey, Classy, you sacrifice some performance of the 646, go for the 90J for stable usage. And so this is what we're talking about. The 646 is very high performing, but the amount of time it took me to kind of nail it down, you really have to know the nuanced issues with the TV. But once you know what it is, then it's easy to address it. But do you have the time? The 90J at its best will not look as good as the R646 at its best, but at its worst, it will always look better than 646 at its worst. I'll be the first to tell you that.
Yeah.
So the question is, if you're a dad streamer, get the X90J. You don't want to deal with it. But if you really want to get it best and you're willing to go in the user groups, talk about it, you will find a setting that will work for all your content, whatever it is. And for me, the R646 stands out because it can look almost as good as a QN98 and the X95J for so much less at the 75-inch size. Are you kidding me? But it takes work. So that's definitely a use case for all of you to consider.
And is that always the challenge with Hisense and TCL? Is even though they're getting close, there's just an elegance to their everyday usage that's not quite as up to snuff as the big three.
Nope. They are getting better, but yeah, it takes a while. So, Michael, you did do good, but you just heard me, right? Be willing to watch us, ask me directly, hey, I have this, I see this problem. More likely than not, either Classy or I can tell you because now that we spent time with the TV, we know exactly where the issues are. Sammy, hey, if I had 25 grand, Sammy, I am so tempted to get that JVC laser TV. So if you don't know, Sammy is a calibrator, has the most amazing projector slash home theater system. He's ready to upgrade again. And
Nice, Sammy.
yeah, he's got reference level everything. So I agree. The projector in a pitch dark room that puts out 3,000 real lumens is going to be amazing. Maybe it'll drop in price. That's what
But
I'm hoping.
when you see those projectors, what's amazing about them is that they take film grain, and you know exactly what people love about film grain when you see them on a projector like that. You're like, put
Yeah.
as much grain on there as you want. It's just so filmic. It's so beautiful. I mean, you don't need
And
Dolby Vision or anything.
that's what I was exactly going to say is when you get that TV up, so the new generation of laser TVs from JVC, even the short throws, there is some HDR, but that's not why the projector is awesome. The
Mm-mm.
rich colors, I mean, everything, the image, right? HDR becomes less relevant now because you don't, it's like you see something else. You see a 150-inch projector and you're like, I don't care if it has HDR. It's 150 amazing inches.
Yeah.
But at the smaller TV size, okay, you can start talking about things. One day we'll see a 150 inch of amazing HDR, maybe if there's a laser that will do that. But right now, it's a completely different use case that I would completely enjoy without HDR myself. Just strong SDR at 150 inches, man, all day long. Do we have recommendations for CRT? Sony
Trinitron.
Vega, the Trinitron Vega from
Grand Wig.
1995, which I had a 30-inch, 32. Hey, thanks for the reminder. Hey, everyone. If you're just joining us, don't forget to click like. We got 200 people watching and 10 likes or less, right? So let me put out my little reminder. We love you all. We love to be here, and we want other people to enjoy us as well. So please click like so more people can find us on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, do me a favor. Put Evan's comment up there.
Okay. This one? Which one?
No, the other one.
Um,
Whisper your video on big TVs passive aggressive.
Oh, you know what? I am missing that. Oh, give me the timestamp. You know what time it was?
5:39.
5:39. Got it. All right. Let me find it. Do. Here we go.
Here
This
we
the
go.
one.
Whisper, I'll
Go
read
forth.
this one. Your video on big TVs is pretty passive aggressive, my dude. I like you, but maybe take your own advice. There's a lot of people. Evan, I read hundreds and hundreds of comments daily, and I've helped you in a million of your comments when you were wanting the A80J, my dude. But let me tell you, once you find the panel you like, be as happy as you want. But I see you in other people's comments, crushing other people. So you have to be a bit more open. I wasn't being passive aggressive. I was telling other people that don't like big TVs, you should probably experience them first. Experiencing them in Best Buy isn't experiencing them. Sitting in front of one and using it daily is experiencing them. So if I came off as passive aggressive, I was actually coming off as aggressive because I get a lot
Where's
of
the
comments
passivity?
about exactly. But these comments, and I'm gonna put you out here. I help you guys constantly to then only when you find your TV kind of come at me. Remember how many comments I responded back to you, Evan, before you get at me in the comments, bro.
And here we have, thank you for the super chat, Rob Bird. What do you think the LG Z9 is doing to beat the A90J in the shootout? Interesting. So the Z9 is an 8K TV. We didn't do them head to head against the A90J.
No.
So let me tell you this, Rob, because the A90J uniquely has the heatsink and the Z9 does not, the Z9 cannot get as bright as the A90J. It just won't be allowed to because it doesn't want to give you burn in. So the Z9 may beat the A90J in a few things, resolution, obviously, possibly it's near black, contrast, shadow detail, but that's the nature of LG. LG C1 G1 this year does very accurate near black shadow detail. A90J has chosen to go a different way because they felt that for the user, this may be better. Now, for those who are concerned with accuracy, the LG G1 beat the A90J when it came to color, HDR color.
Yeah.
And I'd say the Z9 probably shares that same benefit, right? Or the Z10. The A90J, though, has its set of fans. So you really have to choose the one that fits what you like. At this point, they're both great TVs. So it's not like, oh, one sucks, one doesn't. It's, oh, which do you like? I love that the A90J allows me to go higher APL and then HDR, right? It doesn't look SDR because of its heatsink. But how many scenes do we see out of it? Maybe Pan, that ship floating away.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have like 4,000 nit content. It's just everything has to be perfect before the A90J starts to flex its muscle, which means for most people, the A80J is going to be good enough, short of possible binning of the panel. So you have DSE issues, panel lottery, and that's what you're paying for the A90J as well. But that's a good question because a lot of people don't understand why one's better than the other. I don't want to say it's better at this point. I think it's more subjective preferences because some want absolute accuracy and they're going to go with the LG because with a calibrator you can get it closer to absolute accuracy than you can with a Sony. We had that problem at the shootout. Calibrator says, you know what, that's it. This is as best as we could do for the Sony. We're done. And
Yeah.
they were able to get the G1 closer to accuracy. So, but for
Well,
most of you, you're not going to
that's why
notice.
we're trying to help with the shootout more next year to get to where we can also let the LEDs run wild a little bit, so they're not trying to look like OLEDs. Because the Z9J would perform much better had it been able to do its thing. It was also only 75 inches. I think the 85-inch Z9J, the 8K TVs look amazing at that larger size. They just have much more presence. And it was next to the ZX, which was what, 80? What was the ZX this year? Oh, it was only 77, but it was larger. So I would like to see the larger Z9J. It would have been amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't wait until next year when we have the Z 1.5, 2.5, whatever they're going to
It's gonna
come
be
with for
amazing.
the next generation. Hey, Mr. Wolde, thank you for the super sticker. Always appreciate it. Thank you, Jason, for the super sticker. We feel the love. And Buddy, as always, another regular. Thank you for the super sticker, my friend. Had to get out there. And thank you for laughing with us, not at us. Or sometimes we get laughed at too,
John
right?
Hooper's the man. Love John.
And Kevin wants me to experience VRR.
Yeah.
Not with the console. I need to get on a PC, which reminds me, I'm finally going to get to my PC build this weekend. Finally, right? I'm going to have to install what you see behind me, just slightly above, right there, the AMD 6800 on a 5950 processor, and then plug it into my Samsung. And let's see if FreeSync Premium Pro does anything. And I know Dirt 5 has it, but you know, is it going to make a difference? The big difference is this, and this is what I'm looking for. Does HDR backlight get better? Because in VRR, we know HDR does suffer more washed out, lifted blacks. Supposedly in FreeSync Premium Pro, Samsung has solved that. I couldn't find anyone doing comparisons to actually prove that FreeSync Premium Pro is working as intended. It is intended to give the GPU complete control over Samsung's backlight, HDR, tone mapping, the entire thing. And they decide when to make things bright to match with the VRR. So it could still work on VRR, and tone mapping is not an issue. Samsung with Forum VRR is unable to do that themselves. So they just shut down their HDR, full array local dimming. They just lighten everything and focus on the VRR to make sure the VRR works. So people complain that in VRR, it looks worse than when it's off. FreeSync Premium Pro is supposed to make it look almost as good as if it was off in full HDR. So we'll see. And if it does work, well, there you go. The Q90A could be the PC gamer's choice for those of you who have the PC. But we'll see. Again,
Yeah,
that's in
Samsung's
theory.
always been good for gamers. They've always had that gamer
Low
centric,
latency. Yeah.
first. Absolutely.
All right. And thank you for the super chat, my friend Black Francis. Hey, FOMO and Brian. Just
What's
wanted
up,
to
man?
say, love you guys. Hope all is well with you and the family. Yeah, I'm fortunate. My family's doing well. How's your family, my friend?
Everybody's good, bro. Everybody's good. Black
Everyone's
Francis is
great.
another good guy. Super positive.
Positivity. That's what we love. There's enough negativity out there, right?
Of course.
Man. Yeah. Let's see here. You're kidding. You scored a 3080 Founders Edition from
Wow,
Best
you got
Buy.
nice.
Did you get it waiting in line or did you get it online? Because honestly, getting it online is impossible. Waiting in line, getting a ticket like they did this last release was, I heard, manageable. But online, man, it's like, so how did you do it? Did they give you a heads up? Because I know EVGA, their elite members, they will email you like 24 hours ahead to jump in that morning to get in line, and then get an opportunity to buy it within 24 hours or something like that. So this whole scalping thing is crazy.
I mean, what's Nvidia looking to do with? Are they looking at a TI for the 3090? What's their plans with their GPUs?
Everything is rumors. It looks like they want to make a TI version of the 3080 where it has more memory than what it has right now, but not the crazy amount of memory that the 3090 has. So the 3090 is more for developers and creators who really need all that memory. The 3080 is more for gamers who just need some more memory, maybe. But it's another excuse to raise prices as well for the 3080, because I think they're probably going to get rid of the base 3080 because it doesn't have enough memory for what you're paying, honestly,
Yeah.
and give the 3080 the amount of memory it deserves. but we don't know until it's actually official. I think they're going to probably announce it at CES or something like that.
I mean, the PC, that has been so much harder than even the console shortages. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean
Oh my.
CPU, memory. It's just I really wish that
Power
with PC.
supply, fans. If you want
It's
to get
terrible.
fan replacements, you can't get them.
But I want to, even say the stuff that we're talking about with these consoles and everything else. It's a challenge too when you see that even games coming out for PC are just not optimized enough. Like they shouldn't have to struggle. PC, you should be able to just take the lid off and go as hard as you want. You have the horsepower, but unfortunately, they still cap them. And I think the consoles, I think the consoles are driving that now, and they don't want to make the PC games look too much better than the consoles, even though they can. But you should be able to let it run wild if you have a PC.
And this is this comment: is VRR really worth it on a console? If the console, and let's start with the PS5, if the game can't really push 4K 120 and it's honestly really doing 4K 60, and then just lock it in, well, if it's locked 4K 60, why do you need VRR, right? And of course, you might have the non stutter frame rate matching below 60, but it's locked. So you're okay. You're not going to get stutter. You're
Yeah,
not going to get anything. It's locked because that's the PS5 can do that. And so I think with the PS5, that's the easy answer. That's probably why they're not prioritizing it. They don't see any of their games hitting 4K 120. Why are they beating
yeah.
themselves up trying to release VRR? Now, the Xbox Series X is a little bit more powerful, but are you seeing, Brian, it getting, let's say, between 4K 80, 4K 110, where it's needing VRR to work? I'm hearing that maybe that's not the case either. What are your feelings on VRR on the Series X?
So I mean, I'm gonna go back to the Xbox One X for a second. I remember even like screen tearing only showing up at the end of that generation with Modern Warfare. And I was like, oh, there's some screen tearing. And as we've all discussed, these games having built in VSync have really kept screen tearing from happening the way we know it on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that we've talked about this marketing with the buzzword. Screen tearing is now something you're seeing on boxes. And I use VRR every day, but I've had it at times with the C1 and the CX. I've had it disabled and felt that it was equally smooth because you're like, wow, I love
Yep.
VRR. And
Yep.
then you're like, wait a minute. And then as I mentioned on my Sonys, yes, they were still 4K 120. They didn't, now did they stutter? Maybe here and there, perhaps, but they were still equally as smooth. So
Yeah.
I think the part of what I know we should talk about too is it's always better to have these features. Are they truly necessary? So it's like having, people talk about rather have one and not need it than not have one. So that's
Right.
kind
Right.
of where I'm always going to be with VRR. I think it's excellent. I love having all these features. The problem is some of you guys are spending more money on the features than the picture quality. And that's where, where
That is
I come
it.
in.
I think that's such a great point is you're paying the premium for that 1% use case, maybe 5% for when the right game comes by for your console and that you can finally use it in that game,
Yeah.
assuming that you even like the game, right? Then
Yeah,
suddenly
so
everything
we talk
works.
about with TCL and those other brands.
Mhm.
I much rather see you guys go with a flagship panel of a lower brand that can give you nice picture quality and be larger than see you chase a really small C1.
Larger. This goes to Scott Sendra's super chat. 65-inch X95J or 75-inch X95J. Is the 95J worth it over the X90J? I'm assuming you mean the 75-inch X90J then, if you're comparing smaller to larger. So, want good price to performance, 12 feet distance. So at this point, it's not price to performance. At 12 feet, you want price to size, right? Because 12 feet is quite far. And I think
Yeah.
75 inches makes a difference. I would go with the X90J simply because you're going to get a larger screen. Now, the X95J does get a little bit brighter. Its contrast is probably a touch better. You have, all those things, right? But if your room is not, his room is bright, but X90J 75-inch isn't dim. This is a hard one. I still go with a 75-inch because 65 at 12 feet to me is kind of small. I think the 75-inch is worthy. Now, if you're thinking 75-inch X95J, well, definitely. Now you're
Yeah.
spending the money. Now you're getting it all. So, yeah, maybe
Well,
hopefully that
in the
helps.
X90, I mean that TV was again destroyed by everyone. I had it.
Again.
I thought it was great. I didn't think there was a problem with it. Now, is there minor problems with it? Of course, resolution, but I'm not looking at it the way someone who's trying to take the thing apart is looking at it. I look at it as a consumer and somebody who enjoys content, and I thought it was absolutely fine. It was just it was very expensive at launch, and it was alone. It didn't have the X95 with it. Now that it's a decent price, and remember, at 75 inches, it's going to outperform its 65-inch counterpart. So I
Yep.
would think that even though the X95 is a tad brighter, the 75-inch X90 is brighter than the 65-inch X95.
And well, I mean, look at the price. The 75-inch X90J is 1600,
Yeah,
and that's a couple hundred cheaper than the X95J for a larger size. When you're sitting that far away, a lot of the benefits of the picture quality you may be too far away to enjoy. Like if you watch my video comparisons, I mean, I'm like 7 feet away in an 8K camera capturing it, zooming on the details. But that's because I'm assuming you're sitting close enough to get a TV this large, right? But if you're
yeah,
sitting so far, it's this large, a lot of that amazingness is lost. And all you end up seeing is bright light or a contrast. And you're now focusing on really the deeper contrast and HDR effect, I think. Hey, thank you for the super chat, Matthew. Hey, Phone Whisper Status. Do you think TV makers will start to cut smaller sizes next year due to profit margins not being as profitable? Absolutely. It's already started this year. Forget next year. So, Matthew, you notice the X95J is not available in anything smaller than 65. And to
yeah,
add insult to injury, the 65-inch doesn't have the anti-glare. They're trying to cut corners on the smaller size, taking things out that should be in there. There's
yeah.
no reason not to include anti-glare on a 65-inch other than to cut corners. It's not an engineering decision. It's not a use case decision.
No.
It's they just don't like smaller sizes. The margins on the smaller sizes really are terrible for everyone. So expect the higher end TVs to start creeping up. I don't expect 65 to disappear, but more and more of the 55 performance TVs or Samsung, their 50-inch TVs do not perform as well as their larger TVs either, even
No.
though it's a QN90A or whatever, right? You're
Yeah.
going to have less everything. So, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
and well, it's funny though, but what's interesting is that's going to bump into the 8K conversation, except for OLEDs are showing up on smaller sizes, but they're doing that. It's amazing. They're doing that to crush the monitor space. So
Right.
OLEDs are offering those smaller sizes for was it William? But they're charging a premium. You are paying more for that form factor, and not less because it's smaller. They're basically saying, "Hey, look, I'll give you a smaller, amazing panel at a small." Like they're almost making you pay for the small size.
This is one that is shocking to me. Thank you, Romy, for sharing this. Sam's Club, QN85A, 75 inches, 1600. Let's get some perspective. The A90J is 1600. I'm sorry, the X90J is 1600. So I believe the QN85A is definitely brighter. Now we know it has issues off angle a little bit, but the QN85A is not a terrible TV. Yes, it has IPS, but at 75 inches, it gets solidly bright. Its contrast is good. Samsung's being pretty aggressive. And so the answer is
Yeah,
yeah, I think it is a good deal. If you like the Samsung look, it's super bright. IPS on the QN85A. If you're okay with that, go for it. A lot of people, if you go to the user forums, and that's where you should actually go, they actually are okay with it. A lot of people didn't like it. They went straight to the QN90A. Some people said, look, I just sit in front of the TV. I don't care about off angle blooming. I love it. If that's you, this is phenomenal, dude. I think this is a better TV just for movie watching and streaming than the X90, given what features it has. But
yeah.
that means I expect the 6 series, I mean the X90, to drop further because at 1600, how can you? Samsung is killing it in prices right now. Like to your
Yeah.
point, Brian, they released early in the year by Black Friday, chop, 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 chop. And Sony's like,
Well,
I
yeah.
can't keep up.
Well, and if you spend any kind of time in a Sam's Club or a Costco, I mean, they dominate the floor. And in the 85A, there's times where it's lined up with the Q190A, and the 85A looks more vibrant. I don't know why it does, but the way they have them set up, I mean, that they're so punchy. As long as you're again in the center of it, but they are. I mean, they do dominate that Walmart area. I mean, it's amazing how they put them out there. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the common person that comes in and says, "Well, that
Yeah.
one's great," and boom.
Okay. This is a great question, but let me get this straight. Please explain why the Q98 IPS blooming blacks under the supposed to be turned off dimming zone is worse than VA. So I'm assuming you mean the Q98 IPS panels in other countries, because in the US, most of the size, I think 55-inch and above, are definitely VA. 50-inch, I think maybe VA as well. I think it was the 60 hertz for some of the smaller panels. So we have all VA panels in the US, but let's just say outside US, IPS. So be turned off during is worse than VA. So this applies to all TVs. When you turn off the dimming zone, your contrast, native contrast, is always worse. VA or not VA. If you turn off dimming, this is why I don't understand why people continue to compare native contrast. No one ever watches the TV's native contrast because when you turn on the full reticle dimming, it's a completely different TV.
Yeah.
So, if it's just to show off, well, it got better native contrast when all the dimming zones are off, so be it. But you are not going to watch any QLED LCD TV with full reticle dimming and turn off the local dimming. That's why you paid extra. Otherwise, you should have gotten a different TV.
Yeah.
But so IPS natively does not give you good contrast, but it gives you wider viewing angle. VA gives you the best contrast. That's the technology offers, but off angle, you'll lose some color. But when on angle, it has more color. So off angle, the IPS looks like it has more color. VA starts to wash out. It's all use cases. And I believe for gamers, they just like IPS, maybe has better response times. I'm not going to go into it because I honestly don't know, but I know
Yeah.
gaming traditionally has preferred IPS, period. So, but on TVs, we've traditionally preferred VA. We went from IPS to VA as an improvement.
Hmm.
We would not go back. And so that's why I don't understand why, like Samsung, to save money, they made the
Yeah.
QN85A and IPS. It was to save money. It wasn't to improve anything. One step up is the VA. So keep that in mind. IPS is never a step up from VA within the same manufacturer.
That's why I wish LG would done the QNED lineup VA. That would have been a
Oh,
killer.
it would have been. They would have
Oh my
competed.
god.
Hey Rob, thanks for another super chat. Our bright room such a lost cause. The difference between X95J and Z9J isn't worth it. I think okay, I think the X95J would be phenomenal for a bright room as long as you get a large size that has anti-glare. My problem with X95J is the 65-inch doesn't have the anti-glare. The Z9J can get a lot brighter than the X95J because it hits what 2,500 nits in a 1% or 2% window. That's
Yeah.
insane. Now, we're not talking about blooming or lifted blacks at that brightness, but that's just insanely bright. So X95J will make most people happy in a bright room. Get the
Hmm.
75-inch or 85-inch size for anti-glare. Z9J is that extra premium you pay when you have extra money. It was luxury TV watching after yard work.
Yeah.
You got money.
Well, I mean, but you're getting into the Master Series again. You're talking about that is their top of the line. I think it's not as like the Z9G was nearly 4,000 nits, so they had the backlight master drive. There was a reason they had charged that premium. I feel like the Z9J was very expensive again because it came out so late in the game. The Q900A launched a long time ago, so I feel like the Z9J is expensive also for when it was released. I still think if you have the money, it's the probably one of the best LEDs out there. But again, it's 8K. That's what you're paying for.
In my last video, what one of the commenters' name was Big Daddy. So every time I got Big Daddy, that didn't sound right. Well,
What's
you
up,
guys
Big
got to
Daddy?
change your name. Hey, what's up, Big Daddy? That's terrible. I caught myself a couple times. You guys got to change your names. Man. That's terrible. I can see some guys coming in, giving me a super chat just to hear me say their name. We're all gonna get in trouble. All of us, I tell you. I'm gonna get like censored by YouTube because sometimes you don't know what you're saying. Was it when you were a kid? You make those phone pranks. Spell I cup, right? That was like the first as a kid.
All right. They're making you say dirty words.
Hey Brian, this one's for you. Thanks for the super chat. We need Brian on Mortal Kombat 11. Would look amazing on the C1. Thanks. 5 points slow. Is that something? Mortal Kombat 11. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you know what's funny about? Thank you for the super chat, my friend. What's up, bro? What's funny though about I want to talk about this with console gaming though, is especially having an OLED. I can't imagine how this must look on an IPS though. even in this Call of Duty Vanguard, even with Dolby Vision, they have this very hazy, very washed out look to them. And I'm seeing a lot of games do that now, where the colorful sections are very colorful, but the black sections are not nearly as black as something like Mortal Kombat. There's this very blue, hazy gray, and they don't look great. I don't know why games are doing things like that. You know, Deathloop has these faded blue, hazy levels, and they do make your panels look terrible. And I want to see like, and that's what we talked about OLEDs. Let me drop the brightness down. Forget about the OLED brightness. But they do look. I mean, I don't know why these games have black be black. If it's at night, let it be dark. And Mortal
Right.
Kombat's one
Right.
of those games where the backgrounds are black. Where a lot of
Hmm.
games I'm playing now are this hazy, grayish 5%, and they look terrible. I can't imagine how it would look on an IPS panel.
Yeah. Agreed. This is a difficult question to answer, Joey. Looking for differences in the QNID 99, that's the 8K QNID from LG, which I know a lot of people were not happy with. A lot of people even may argue the QNID 90 was better, but the QNID 99 definitely Brandon did not like it. And the TCL R648, which many of us felt was just an 8K version of a lesser, like a 6 series from 2 years ago, right? It doesn't have any mini LEDs. So it becomes the QNID 99 does many things wrong. The blooming, because it's so bright, is out of control. However, the 648 overall has more lifted blacks here and there generally. So 648 does less things badly. 99, the QNID 99 could look bad at the wrong angles, and it's very expensive. My last question to you is, why would you consider either one of them 8K, right?
Yeah,
If you like LG, get the QNID 90. The 99 doesn't even have VRR working, assuming that's important to you. But it just feels to me that 8K has too many compromises. There's a lot of problems with 8K, which I
yeah,
will be going over in my next video. I'm going to explain exactly why 8K has issues. But yeah, don't, unless you have a specific need for 8K, which I cannot imagine,
yeah,
the image quality is not better.
yeah,
Like the QN900A this year, if they made it 4K, it would be phenomenal. It's not phenomenal because it's 8K. It's phenomenal because it has
yeah,
so many dimming zones, excellent processing, everything is great. If they took away a quarter, like
yeah.
what was it, 8 times, 4 times down to a quarter what it was, it would be
Oh, it'd
even
be amazing.
better.
Well, the
Yeah.
Q and the QNED 99 with actual 8K content on it from LG, it looks unbelievable. It just doesn't with everything else.
And here we have them doubling down. So a couple of weeks ago, we are saying, hey, maybe Samsung this year with QD display, new start, new technology, new year, and then Dolby Vision,
No
right? You
Dolby
have
Vision.
Xbox Series X, they're bound at the hip, they're partners. So
Yep.
Xbox breaks down and says, fine, whatever, we'll give you 10 plus. That's the minute Xbox announced 10 plus support, it's over.
Yep.
They are never going to go Dolby Vision. Not that it's relevant. So let's address that real quick. If you guys are paying good money to have a
Black
great
Friends.
TV, Dolby Vision is a non-issue. Some people don't even like it. I'm ambivalent either way because all my flagship TVs I watch on an HDR10 when I compare them so that they all are on the same level playing field. It's only when it's super bright, like a 10,000 nit content, like on Spears and Munsell in HDR10, that the TV cannot handle it. That's when the
Yeah.
Samsung beats that TV. Then, when that TV takes the Dolby Vision version, the 10,000 nit, that's when the Dolby Vision allows it to match the Samsung. But it
Yeah.
wasn't better than the Samsung. The Samsung, they figured it out. So it's okay, you guys are looking at Samsung. Hey, Black Francis, thanks again for the super chat. I want to have a threesome with my. You're talking to the man that has
Yep.
both right here, right? Right here. Right? I'm putting the wrong way, right here.
Freaking Black Francis, my man. But you know what's
My
funny about Dolby
man.
Vision? It goes back to checking those boxes. I remember us all chasing it, and there was no Dolby Vision content. So it goes back to what we're saying about 8K. It goes back to what we're saying about a lot of this is we put the cart before the horse.
Oh, look, he's going to have a live stream later. Hey, yeah, let us know if you guys have a live stream after this. We're going to wrap up in a bit. Maybe another, how good are you for 5 more minutes, 10 more,
Yeah, I'm
10
good.
more minutes? Are you good? Okay, so we're going to wrap up by no later than 3:30. So if you guys are having a live stream, let us know and they're going to check you out. Smoothly move in with you guys. Yeah, that's great. Let me make sure I caught up on all the super chats here. think I am. If I did not get to your question, ask it again. We're just having so much fun talking. I'm going to miss all the questions. So, yes, please. You will like Battlefield 2042, Brian.
Oh my
Is
god, I can't
Battlefield
even.
your favorite title? Just
It
generally,
it
it sounds.
became that just due to the immersion and being able to actually have teammates. I mean, Warzone on Call of Duty is excellent, but playing this Vanguard, it's just old school Call of Duty. I'm kind of done with that. I want to play more immersive and really see what these games, these consoles, and these TVs can do. These old arena, like, it looks fine, but I can't wait for it. Cannot wait.
And Dennis, definitely move fast when you're ever asking for a price match from anyone, because, like
Yeah,
others have seen, if it ends in 3 hours and you catch the last 5 minutes of the flash sale, by the time you get a hold of the one you want to match, they check the online, like, wait a minute, I don't see the price.
yeah.
You're done for, right? So make sure you know when you're capturing it at that price. Keep that in mind. Here we go. Let's talk about this. Rephrase. Thank you. FOMO, you missed my point. Rephrase. If local dimming is perfect and a dimming zone, meaning LEDs, are turned off. Oh, what will the V advantage be over IPS? I see. Okay, let's get this straight. If you turn off all local dimming, the VA advantage over IPS is very hard to explain or to compare, because you have old VA, new VA, you have old IPS, new IPS. But let's just say the best VA available from AUO, right? They're one of the top VA panel makers out of Taiwan, and the best IPS maker, LG, right? Just gonna throw that out there. I suspect that the native contrast on the VA without any dimming zones will be better than the IPS, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I've now we're talking theoretical. I cannot answer that. Theoretically, it should be, but I could be wrong, right? Because it's you have to look at the whole implementation, and view a few companies will ever recommend you turn off their dimming zones or mini LEDs if they have it there, because they chose a VA panel specifically to match that. So they're not going to overpay for a VA panel that doesn't benefit from it.
Yeah.
So they will pay the least they can for a VA panel that benefits the most from it. And I'm going to this is you, Sony. I know you cheaped out your VA panel because your XR processing was so amazing that you cheaped out on your VA panel for some reason. And so native contrast is slightly worse, but it's okay because their dimming zones and software XR more than made up the difference. So that's really hard to answer.
And to me, local dimming really helps with blooming more than its contrast ratio sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you disable local dimming, it's not as easy to tell other than the blooming.
And to your point, Dartman,
Terry,
many
what's
people
up?
need to know Dolby Vision is also a core. It could be a core graded suite. So if the creator graded in Dolby Vision specifically, you
Yep.
may be getting the creator's intent in that color that the other TVs don't. So let's say Netflix Dolby Vision, right? We don't know whether creator graded in Dolby Vision or they graded it outside of Dolby Vision and then they just used Dolby Vision and converted it. We don't know. So Dolby Vision often has slightly different colors. My experience is it's not so different that it caused me to get rid of the TV, like the Samsung. But on Netflix, it was very obvious before the firmware update. Now it's a lot closer to Netflix Dolby Vision. But yeah, there's no wrong answer here either, because Dolby Vision also is not just brightness and tone mapping, it's also color.
Yeah, and Dolby Vision always tends to have a darker look to it, so I think it turns people off at times, even in gaming.
Yep, agreed. And KG had a question for me. I'll answer real quickly. I only have time to play Overwatch because they have these fast games. Jump in with my kids, I'm done. And they know how to play.
Yeah.
I know how to play. If I get bored with one character, and they're all so different, right? And they have my favorites. So, or anything like Overwatch. But I just like Overwatch because that was the first of that style I got a couple of years back. And it's on Xbox and the
Well,
Series
it's
X for the kids.
colorful and there's a lot
It's
of movement to
colorful,
it.
it's fun. And then there are girl characters that my daughter go with because it's girly, right? So, but I know there are new ones that are better, that are similar. But it's like, I don't want to relearn the entire thing again. That's another thing, is learning the controls, then
Yeah.
learning all the weapons. It is an investment of time. I am so solid with the two or three characters I have in Overwatch. I don't have time to relearn everything, but a lot of you guys do. And maybe I'm just like a dad. This is what a dad gamer is, right?
I
You
mean, if
learn
you'd be
just
like me,
enough and
you
you're
can.
done.
I buy the games, but I know Tech said he liked the way Vanguard looked. I think the campaign looks good, but I think the multiplayer, it has this very watercolor look to it, and maybe I have to mess with the settings, KG. But to me, it's a very hazy game. It's really soft looking, so I have to figure out what I'm doing with the settings. But I
Yeah.
don't love the way it looks so far.
Okay. And we're last call. We are going to end in 15 minutes. We got to let Brian go home, or he is home. We let Brian spend some time with the ladies in his house. So, or maybe they're glad you're upstairs drinking. Ah, good. We're away from.
Maybe.
We're gonna watch the Squid Game again without him.
But I mean, like the things that while we're finishing up is, I think what triggered the conversation was, keeping picture quality at the forefront, picture quality and value. And for me, who has all the boxes checked, I love having them checked. It's important to me. But my point of the whole conversation that we were talking about was it may not be useful for you. As we're discussing with the Z9J, you have to buy it as a really good 4K panel, not as an 8K panel, because it'll never see 8K content. And
Right.
that's unfortunately a trend that we've always had in technology. I think ray tracing with the graphics cards from the 2080, a lot of those ray tracing never really came out as much as it should have, and everyone focused on it. And a lot of times the games are better without it. So it's like, don't spend the money on a lot of these features that are not showing up.
And speaking of vaporware features that may or may never show up, this is the perfect comment. Thank you, Oren, for this. I wanted to address this. Give us YouTube links for 10,000 nit showcase Q98. Okay. Number one, 10,000 nits is impossible to get unless you are on the Spears and Munsell disk. I don't even know if YouTube will allow 10,000 nits to pass through its format. So do not look for 10,000 nits on YouTube. Get the Spears and Munsell disk, and it's on almost all of my videos. Just look for the Spears and Munsell. But if you go on Amazon, it's a Spears and Munsell benchmark 4K UHD. They have 10,000 nits in HDR10 and in Dolby Vision. Then you could compare, right? That's one. But second, and this is what many were reminding him, is movies are graded to less than 1,000 nits for a reason. The studios know most people, not us, right? We're not most people, do not have TVs that could break 1,000 nits. And if you have OLED, it definitely cannot break 1,000 nits. And so the studios are like, okay, so the best TVs are OLED. The king of TVs is a Sony. And most of Samsung TVs, only the topmost can break 1,000. The rest are under 1,000. Why are we grading any of our HDR content to above 1,000? Most people can't enjoy it, and their TVs will screw it up in tone mapping. We will keep it not just under 1,000. We're going to keep it under 800 nits. So if you watch some of Vincent To's older videos where he's comparing, he's getting all mad, and people start yelling at him because he's like, "Well, this HDR should be."
Yeah.
Ultimately, this is to keep the content within the TV's ability to play because they want you to enjoy it. But if your TV screws up the tone mapping, now it's even worse than before. And this is why Dolby Vision is so happy. Oh, we could do a better job tone mapping, but you don't even need to do that. We just grade everything at under 800 nits, and every TV is going to be fine. And so that's one. So the best showcase for the Q98 is really the Spears and Munsell disc at 10,000 nits, but you won't notice the difference. Why? When Samsung pulls that 10,000 nits down, they're hoping to make it look like 1,000 nits. So
Yeah.
you're not getting what
No.
Samsung is saying is, okay, it's 10,000 nits. I'm going to tone map it to what I can handle. This looks exactly the same as if you were playing it on a 2,000 nit version. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of people don't understand that, and I know a lot of calibrators are like, yeah, because they're going to get these questions from their TV owners. They're like, what? You don't understand, do you? These TVs, their goal is to not get you bright, is to get you what the content wants. And what the content wants is 1,000 nits, not 10,000. Because only Dolby Vision was designed to be graded at 10,000. And there is no 10,000 nit monitor to even grade it that high.
No.
They're using a special program to assume 10,000. They can't even double check it, right? They just assume it's
Yeah.
10,000.
But it's
It's
almost like I'm
crazy.
playing a game called It Takes Two. If you guys get a chance to check out It Takes Two, it's on Game Pass right now. Amazing. It's not HDR, but there's so many examples of the game looking like it would have HDR, or what we perceive to be HDR, these sunsets and these light shafts. So to your point with like a lot of times, even without HDR, that's why, projectors are amazing without it for years. They're like, all right, you don't need really, like, we've created that we needed this many nits. And I don't know
Yep.
when that started, but it's kind of going away a little bit.
Now we get to the point. Okay, so this, I could go straight to this. The answer is
Oh my God, my boy Orange still going.
both. Okay, so everyone needs to know this. Every TV that's an LCD TV, and this OLED too, every TV right now is limited by how bright they can go by their color filter. If you go over a certain number of nits, it is not, there's no color. It's just white light, like right behind Brian, right? That's what it's going to look like. If you get above, let's say, I don't know, the X900H, right? Above 1,000 nits, it's going to look white. As the TVs get more expensive, maybe they preserve a little bit more color volume, but at some point, they can't do it anymore. And I would say 2,000 nits is the limit. So let's say the Z9J, right? 1% window, it hits 2,600 nits. How much of that is color? So that's where color volume comes in. What colors are still left at 2,000 nits in a 1% window or a 2% window? That is the most difficult part of pushing brightness. You can get bright, but it's white light, which is pointless. I want to see yellow sunshine. It's
Yeah.
not there. If I
Yeah.
want the yellow sunshine, I'm going to pull down the nits. So neither IPS nor VA, there is a limit to how far they can handle it. So that's where the current color filter has a problem. The new color filter, the QD display that Samsung is so excited about, it's able to preserve more color volume at higher nits. Supposedly, that's what I'm being told by the quantum dot people. That means if you do send in 10,000 nits, maybe it could preserve much of that or a lot of it, right? And that's why people are excited about QD. It's not a color filter per se, it's a color converting layer.
Yep.
Each quantum dot is not a filter, but it acts like a filter. It's converting blue light into the rainbow of colors. It could take in all that energy. The issue it has right now is blue light leakage. If you put in too much blue, it's leaking everywhere. And so it's also being limited by that leak. If they could control the blue light leakage, then it could get even brighter. And that's why it's so dim right now. Any brighter, and then the blue starts leaking everywhere. So they're
Yep.
definitely working on it, but they're thinking that once they've solved that, you will get this bright and color volume. So there's a lot of technical difficulties. That's why you don't see us ever breaking 2,000 nits realistically, like the
Yeah.
brightest Samsung. Real image colors and everything, 1,600, 1,400 nits. And even then, there's not a lot of color within that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the
I
Quantum
think we got
XP
to stop.
series hit what, 3,000,
Oh,
and
3,000. No one ever found 3,000 nits on the P
then it,
Quantum
it
X.
would
No
it
one.
would and it wasn't worth. It would flatten out. It just didn't work. So it's almost like something horsepower, but you can't really race. You have it there just to say you have it there, which is the
Yeah,
point of our whole conversation tonight.
yeah, absolutely. And here, well, here's a great question. Wait, let's say, I want to see this comment. Brian looks like he's ascending into heaven. And for
I'm
those
like
of you
10
who
feet
have the
from it.
83, if you have the 83-inch TV, that's what
Fly
it
you
feels like when you
fools.
get it,
Great,
right?
great man.
Hey, what do you think of the 75-inch 90J, X90J, or spend more? I think you should spend more and go with the LG
Yeah.
C1 77-inch. But if you're in the Sony family, the A80J will cost the same as the C1 at some point during this Black Friday.
Yep.
So if you are a Sony fan, stay with Sony. You know what you're looking for. Sony will deliver.
Hmm.
So the A80J will hit that price point that is will share with the C1. Keep an eye out. Don't move it unless you're gaming or whatever, like we talked about, VRR, 4K 120, all of that. Let's see. No, current OLEDs, it's at its limit. LG OLEDs is at its limit. This was the heatsink and it's pushing, and even the Sony can't get it much brighter.
Yeah.
Panasonic is the best at it, and they still can't get any brighter. We're done. It's all about lowering the price, increasing
Yep.
the efficiency, energy saving. Image quality is locked in. It is mostly good as it's going to get. It has to be new emissive technology, like possibly QD display or QNED or micro LED. This is all you. If you're happy with your IPS ADS panel, that's what counts. Don't bring in an OLED. Don't bring in a VA panel.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
We are
I mean,
telling you what we see comparing it, but if you're
Yeah.
not comparing it in a vacuum.
No.
This is
Yeah.
why
And
he has a
Oren,
tech therapy channel.
yeah, and Oren, that's I'm telling you, man. If you're gonna be in these comments looking for affirmation, sometimes it's gonna go the opposite way because we end up focusing on one thing. If you're happy with what you see, I mean, IPS panel's been around for eternity. People love them. They love monitors. So just enjoy it, my friend.
This is an important question. Why is it LCD has DSC and OLEDs don't? Okay, so let's break down three layers of issues. First, OLED as a technology, is it any less prone to DSC than LCD? So that's one. Second, manufacturing quality control. LG is the only manufacturer of OLED panels. Therefore, if LG does a if LG does a good job at its fabrication plant before sending it out to Sony, then LG OLEDs will be better because LCDs are manufactured all over the world. You got
Yeah.
BOE, you got CSOT, TCL, you got AUO, you got all these companies, and their quality controls all over the place, right? So you have that layer that might contribute to DSC. And then you have the last layer. The TV maker gets the OLED panel, they get the LCD. Sony will reject anything that doesn't pass Master Series level for the Master TV. So Sony Master Series TV, whether it's an LCD or an OLED, gets further rejected and they will only take the best panels. Now, this may appear that, oh, wait, OLED's better because I don't see any OLED DSC on a Sony Master Series. No, Sony got rid of those. They gave it to the A80J, or they just got rid of it if it's not good enough for the A80J. But that's why the Master Series is so expensive.
Yeah.
Low yields, they have to put that cost back because LG doesn't want it back. You bought it, Sony, just throw it away. We don't want it back.
Yeah.
That cost goes back to you. So back to the whole DSC. This is why people choose Sony Master Series. They got rid of them more often
Yep.
than not. This is why people are complaining of Samsung. Samsung is letting more of these bad stuff coming in. Doesn't mean that LCDs are worse or better. It's just that's how it is with all these different manufacturers.
Yeah.
And LG itself, it just started a whole new manufacturing stack for the Evo 2022 panel that's introducing pink tint, a whole different kind of DSC that people are complaining about.
Yeah.
But LG knows about it, they're working on it, and as they implement these fixes, everybody benefits. But OLED's coming from one source, and that same source providing to the best TV companies out there means that their quality control will be a little bit better. BOE supplying to everyone from the lowest of the low, including the lowest Skyworth and the Walmart brands, all the way to the top of the top. Quality controls all over the place. It's up to the TV maker to decide, should we reject this panel and raise the cost of the TV or keep it, but keep all of our prices low? And this is why a lot of people are saying, TCL Hisense, well, they're cheaper because you get worse quality control. Yeah, that's how they keep the prices low. But if
Absolutely.
you're okay with swapping the TVs, you might end up with a great TV. Hopefully
Yeah.
that was clear. I don't know. Did that make sense
Yeah.
to you?
But OLEDs, unfortunately, OLEDs do have a banding issue. So I
Yeah. And
mean,
that's inherent.
unfortunately,
Mhm.
it's there. I mean, it's ends up being more inherent on the source that shows it because you can run slides all day and not see it on OLEDs. But on my A9S Master Series, it had the same again, but it was only in certain content, that 5% gray, that hazy, that it shows up on.
All right. We're going to wrap up with a few more questions and we got to go. Found your question. Z9J 85 inch or the A90J 83 inch. Love movies and gaming. Money is not an object. I'd go with the A90J 83 inch for two reasons. I believe their front facing acoustic glass panel is better for you to integrate with the HTA9 if that's what you want to do. And I also like that it's an OLED with a heat sink that's pushing what Sony has available in its technology stack. I feel the Z9J is 2-year-old technology that they're just selling again, fine tuning with the XR. And given that the A90J represents the best of what Sony has, I believe that the XR chip is probably tuned to make the A90J look as good as it can, more so than the Z9J. That's just my opinion, though. What do you think? Money no object. These are the people you hang around, Brian.
I would
What
go with
would
the
you recommend?
Z9J. If money is no object, and you're flexing like that, and you're gonna put it in the, if you look, if money's no option, you're not looking at the HTA9, which I think is awesome. But I would go with the Z9J. It all depends on what kind of room you're in. In 85, the issues that we see with blooming aren't as evident if you're close to it because it is gonna engulf you. But the if you it all depends too. The Z9J's brilliance and brightness at that size is amazing. I do feel like the 85-inch Z9J is a different animal than the one we saw at the shootout. I think the shootout should have had the 85-inch. It's much more impressive at that size. So I'd go for the eight. But to me, that extra size also matters.
Yeah. And that's another point. I forgot to ask Explorer, if you have a bright room, go to Z9J. Actually, that should have been the simple answer. If it's light controlled, A90J. If it's a bright room, the Z9J. It's just so bright. It does dazzle people for sure. And I think there's a couple of interesting questions here when I catch. Oh, dude, I have forgotten to properly load my bench the last 2 weeks. I need to go in there and do it right this week. So it wouldn't surprise me if I've been, hey, how come he has no quarterback? Like, oh, we're talking about the fantasy game. So like, oh man. Yeah. And yes, I will be covering, actually, I will be having an audio live stream tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be covering with Aaron's Corner on my channel, Stop the FOMO. We'll be talking about the best speakers for home theater, the best speaker period, because I have the Perlisten S4B, but also you don't have to spend that much to get the best speaker for your home. We're going to talk about what makes the best speaker best. So yes, I do love audio stuff. It's just I love TVs more on this channel.
Yeah, and the
And
A9. I mean, I bought it,
oh,
so I
yeah,
own
it's
it. I love
fabulous.
it. I mean, very impressive.
It is fabulous. Let me see. And we're almost done here. I would agree, Hammer. Get both if money's no problem. One on one wall, one on the
Yeah,
other. Just
exactly.
cover it up.
Or get that projector, the JVC.
Okay, and we are going to wrap up. Okay, so let's talk about this. I don't know what else to do, right? So when I post that we're going to have a video, it's supposed to notify you. So subscribe. Oh, no, you have to go into your settings and click alert. Click alert in your settings, and they will let you know. All right, guys. So let's wrap it up. Brian, what's happening with you this week? Tell me, tell me.
Not much.
So,
Just catching up on Vanguard, and Forza 5, which looks incredible. So just trying to get some content. Just play. I'm trying to do. I don't want to say do more content on YouTube, but actually just enjoy some content on these panels, and actually playing here and there once in a while. So pretty much just kind of chilling. How about you?
let's see, I'll be doing X95J versus QN90A and TCL R646. PS5 comparisons, because I think the PS5, number one, a lot of people have it, or they'll have both. They'll include the PS5. Number two, PS5 doesn't take VRR seriously, so they're focusing on image quality without VRR. This
Yeah.
gives it a level playing field for me, whereas Series X, I don't know what the developers are thinking. Maybe they need VRR to fix some of their laziness, whereas Sony would not accept laziness if there's no VRR. And that's
Could be.
why I'm going to test only a PS5, because I don't want to be limited by the source, right? The software is like we talked about. They're too lazy to figure it out and lock it in.
Yeah.
They'll just rely on VRR. That limits only LG owners to enjoy their game, which is, I think, kind of sucks. And we'll be doing probably an HDMI cable update, where this time I tell you how to take care of your HDMI cables. Specifically, length is an issue. If it's optical, there are certain unique things you got to look at. And also, you can refresh your cable and HDMI. There are certain things you do that if you have issues doing this, well, really, you have to unplug everything. Unplug your cable, unplug the TV, leave it out for 15 minutes and replug it, because some of the EDID information is sitting in the capacitor right there in the processor and is screwing everything up. That's actually the easy fix for a lot of people, is to unplug their HDMI. And I also got an HDMI tester to make sure I test all my HDMI
Nice.
stuff. And I will be upgrading my audio capture. So I'm debating, I may get a 360 full ambient audio capture from Soundfield, so I can start doing immersive comparisons between different movies. Let's say,
Awesome.
this movie versus that. Where are the effects? Because I need to capture it accurately, and then have to downmix it to binaural for you guys, because most of
Yep.
you only have headphones, right? So with your headphones, I want to be able to at least somewhat capture more of the ambience. You got the sonic presence yet? I know you got a
I just
sonic
got it.
presence. Oh yeah,
I gotta try it
record
with Robert
directly.
next
It's
week.
it's exciting. Yeah. So I want to try something. Hey, if I spend, I don't know, 10 times more than a sonic presence, does it get better? So we'll see. But it's a lot of stuff to have fun with you guys. Okay, everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you, Brian, for being a wonderful guest. Until next time, everyone.